Theatre London. So that was an experiment by Robin Phillips to, after his Stratford years, if I believe, to build a much bigger idea of a local theatre. Can you explain that slightly?
Well, what he wanted was a regional theatre that worked in the wintertime to do a repertory season. So he was not in competition with Stratford, because Stratford was a summer theatre. But so he wanted a repertory situation. Those of us who were employed there, we understood that it would be a 3-year process, that it was something that was not going to turn around in a season. I did not sell my house, but I rented my house, and I rented another house in London, and a lot of people who were from Toronto did indeed give up their places, stuff, to come and be part of this. And we did, for my money, some of the best shows that I have ever been a part of. We did A Timon of Athens with Bill Hutt, which was brilliant. That production of Waiting for the Parade, which was great. We did Doctor's Dilemma with Brent Carver and Martha Henry.
I mean, for those of us from the outside who were watching, we'd seen Robin Phillips's time at Stratford with everything he'd done at Stratford. Then he'd left, as it were.
Yeah.
And we watched him take, for some people, an outlandish ambition, for some people, an incredible ambition, or a vision to a sort of sleepy Theatre London or the Grand Theatre, and apply his large ambition and palette to the, and we all watched fascinated, because we thought if he can make this work, there would be a film component, there would be this, there would be a company, there would be repertory. We thought if he can make this work, it's going to lift all the boats, as it were.
Yeah.
So it didn't work.
No.
And what was going on if the productions were that good, if the work on stage, and yet?
Well, the first, I don't want to say he made a mistake, but the first unfortunate thing was that they eliminated the subscription series. And many of the subscribers to London come to the theatre every third Tuesday in every month for 6 or 7 months, and they sit in these 2 seats that they've always sat in. And now they were actually going to have to think about, if I want to see this play, I could come this day, and if I want to see this play, I can come this other time. But there wasn't a subscription season sort of laid out as it would have been, because they had worked in stock before, and now it was going to be in rep. So that eliminated a whole lot of the ground swell of people who usually supported Theatre London. Now
I mean, they stopped buying tickets?
They didn't buy tickets. They didn't buy tickets because...
You played to half houses?
Yes, yeah. And the other problem they had, because it was in repertory, it was difficult for some of the, particularly like the props people and stuff like that, because it used to be, if you wanted to borrow something from Sears, can we have a Chesterfield? We'll need it for 3 weeks. In repertory, we will need it for 4 months. Well, then they're not going to, it's, so that became very difficult for people. And indeed, at the end, I think they found that of the people who did come, 50% of them were brand new to the London Theatre. So if we had been able to keep that 50% and get back the people who'd been part of the subscription by doing, I don't know what, but there must have been some kind of accommodation that could have been made so that you could do a repertory, a stock kind of thing with the plays and stuff. But the first year, they lost $1 million.
Oh.
So the board just panicked because the shows were
over budget.
I think that they were under, the ticket sales were not good enough. And it wasn't. We all thought this was going to be for 3 years, and indeed that it would lose money to start, but then it would get better and better. But when you lose that much, then of course the board panicked, so they didn't want to do it anymore, and they went back to their stock season, and it took them a very, very long time to get out from under that.
Do you know if
Loss.
the board approached Robin Phillips with this idea, or did Robin Phillips approach the board with this idea? Who proposed this large expansion?
Oh, I always assumed it was him.
That he
Like
had.
he went to them, but I don't know that for sure. That's an assumption I always made about it.
Because what we're talking about is dreams dying here, and when dreams die in the
yeah.
theater, it's there's a lot of blood
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
there's a lot of scar tissue.
Yeah.
So it was such a big dream that if it had worked, it would have been pretty magnificent.
Yes.
And yet, one cannot be untruthful and say there was a section of the Canadian theatre when, oh, he's just got too big for his boots.
Yeah.
He's going to
Sure.
come down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was that kind of push and pull on the large dream syndrome. And we know that he had a coterie of actors who really, really liked him. And there were a whole group of actors who went, well,
Don't get it.
live in his camp.
Yeah.
You know, you wear the uniform, so to speak.
Yeah.
We could never figure that out. But still, as this ambition was proposed, he went, wow.
Yeah. It's a great
And
idea.
what was
It was
it-
a great idea.
It was a fantastic idea to film, a bit like they're doing here, to have
Yeah.
a film studio at the same time, so you'll keep talented actors
Yeah.
doing the best work, whatever. So as the ship is floundering and taking on water, how do you keep going every day? How do you turn up? How do
Well,
you...
I mean, we all loved what we were doing, but indeed by the last maybe 2 months of it, like there was only one bank that would cash our checks, our paychecks. We used to take everything of value out of the theater every night, like including Laura Burton, who played keyboard. We took all those kinds of things out of the theater. We took them home with us because we thought we could come back tomorrow, and the bailiff will have, locked the doors and we won't be able to get in and get our stuff.